there's each nekuda, there's the Sef is Dover over here, but we'll not minds on the other prat. Okay, Sifidal. What does the Rebbe say in Sifidal? What's the pirush al pidrush medani that we have to learn loyalty from the Eibishter. A person is mafkud his neshama every night b'tur pikodim, and a person owes the Eibishter a lot, and the Eibishter gives, like it says in the Mishnah Pekiyavos, the Eibishter gives us life because he wants in return that we should be able to. He gives us life. Not stamas like we term matana that we should keep it and do whatever we want, but and he wants it, we're mechuyev to him to give him back whatever a person has to do. And the person doesn't fulfill his full duties. Now, but we can't. The Eibishter is not ma'akiv. The pikad that a yid gives him, ba'ad getting back the debt that a yid owes Hashem. So there is a person has to learn from that he shouldn't be ma'akiv. Someone has a pikad that belongs to someone else, and that person owes the money. You shouldn't be ma'akiv the pikad ba'ad achevis that the mafkid owes you, that the nifkad owes you. So Israel akiv pikad ba'ad achevis shel mafkid. I'm sorry, the mafkid ba'ad achevis shel mafkid. Bli abir shel chassidus ein le'avan. It's not the has not tefisa. Why? Kivan shel mafkid chayv l'meret HaChassidus, the mafkid the din is even in a case where the mafkid owes the money, and he has no way of getting the money. He's going to keep this chayfetz. Ein le derech li paradin. Whatever the beard is, he has no way of getting the money from it. The einzige Ve'areis l'chorek sheba liyadi is damnus tekabelis magiel lama le'inatzelis. And the first zach is, what's the whole purpose of why there's a mitzvah? There's a mitzvah to give back to Bikad. Why? So that the mafkid shouldn't lose his money. But why should but he owes me money. Why should I have a mitzvah to give back to Chayfetz and not keep it for money that he owes me? The whole purpose of the mitzvah is that the mafkid should get his money back. So my money comes before Chayecha Kaidman. The pile he owes me money. The only way for me to get the money that he owes me is by keeping this chayfetz. My shnom chayfetz hagazl memanu sheveim ein yochel etziyah ma'agazl adi bezdin. So mutter leimer la'achar shiknes chayfetz. He's allowed to make a spitzel to get someone else to buy it from the gazlan. From the gazlan itself, there's no way of getting it from the gazlan. There's the ish alam. There's no way of getting the chayfetz out of the gazlan. So he tells another person to buy it from the gazlan. And then once the other guy has it from this person, he's that's a tzayis l'dina. Once the chayvetz doesn't exist by the gazlan, he's going to go to Bezdin and prove that this chayvetz belonged to him, and it'll be meitzi the chayvetz from the lekech. So he's making the lekech pay money. He's making the lekech pay money. He himself knows that the lekech is gonna lose this money, or whatever. He's gonna get into a headache. That's not the tell. Everything's in the artist. It's an issue to do it because klapi the lekech. He's being ever the issue of the evil is the mirshal. He's giving him an eitzara to buy a chayvetz that he's gonna end up losing. And having the whole hassle to get paid back the money. It's not worth it for him. He's going to pay money. The chayvetz is going to lose. He's going to have to go back to this gazlan to get his money back. And it's not a pashat. So the klapi the lekeach, he's being aver and aver. But there's no issue. He's allowed to do any tricks that he could in order to get his chayvetz back from the gazlan. One of the be'etzem apidim mitzad ha'alach of trying to use eitzes to get his chayvetz back, he's allowed to use any eitzes he wants. The in this case, the klapi the lekeach is aver the issue of this neighbor the system. But there's no issue of trying to get your money through any way possible. So, everything's in the klap elekech. There's another issue. Oh, the evil is the mirshal. You're being machshalim. But the gabi being is being meisi is chayv. Not on a direct way. He's being meisi is chayv by telling someone else to buy it. Doesn't make a difference. Any way you have the way to get back your money, you could do it. So there's here. The only way for you to get back your chayvetz is your money. He owes you money, not a chayvetz. Is by keeping a chayvetz. So what's going to be nishtan? So there's a but Toras HaChassidus and Bairis. Here the Rebbe said you have to zacharek in the pratim because here there's kama Inyona. So Chassidus is mevayir shekol ha-mitzvahs gam ha-mitzvahs sheyesh aleim tam ikrem hu rotzen ha'olim shalom alam yatam. What does the Rebbe say here? What type of pashas? In a regular case, a person, as in the marshal a person has a rotzen labayis, let's say. You have certain retzenis that begin, which is a rotzen apitam. So rotzen mitzat a person wants to put on his coat. It's cold outside. There's no rotzen pnimi that is nefesh has a meshicha towards. There's a reason. It's cold, so maybe he puts on his coat. But certain saying is that an evea mitzad etzma nefesh. So it says the fact that a person has a rotz in the bayis Chitzonius, when a person feels that he wants a house, the regesh chitzoni is because if he's not going to have a house, he's not going to have where to stay, he's not going to have where to put his stuff, he's not going to have this, not going to have that. But the previous Suda says the reason why the sheirish harishin, why a person has meshichat habayis is not because it doesn't make sense for him not to have a house or other chitzonistic reasons. The nefesh mitzad atzmei has a connection to habayis. Kol misha ein lebayis any other, whatever the beard is. But the etzem nefesh is muchlet in the etzem a ratzon lebayis, a kesher lebayis. So the ratzon doesn't originate mitzad haseichel. The ratzon, the meshichat to the bayis begins because the etzem nefesh is nimshach to the bayis. And why does the etzem nefesh want it? Not because otherwise he's not going to have where to, he's going to be missing comfort. The nefesh is before there's a concept of comfort. Before there's a kesher between a kesher nafshi between the nefesh and the bayis. There's beyond seichel. L'poil, a person doesn't experience the ratzon of his etzem nefesh directly. L'poil, we're living in a world that we have a person has seichel and a person has midas, and when we feel the urge for a bayis, it goes through the filter of seichel and midas. So l'poil, when a person feels the ratzon as a conscious ratzon of bayis, he has reasons for it because he needs a place to stay. He has to settle himself down. So many reasons. But previous, the fact that a person has an urge doesn't begin with these chitzonistic reasons. And there's rayas for it. That's that once a person has a bias, it's tainug, and the bias is shalei lefi erech. So a person, if the whole reason why he wanted a house, you shouldn't be able to. You shouldn't have to sleep outside. So the whole, say a person, he wears a coat that shouldn't be cold. You don't have a special extra tainug when you're wearing a coat. So you're not cold now. Finish. It's not like there's a special tainug dirt when you have a coat that you're now a place. When a person has a bias, it's not just your masalic problems. The whole nukud of the bias was he needs a place to stay. So the whole panic should be that you have your place at the poil. There's becomes a kesher between the person and the bias. Whatever but the poil when a person is margish by himself or ratzon the bias, it goes through a seichel v'das. So every ratzon, what I'm saying is there's the ratzon the way the initial state of the ratzon the way it's a ratzon it's a etzem nefesh, but then it goes through seichel v'das. They're a klal. So when the Rebbe says here, the Rebbe is going to get to mitzvahs. Wir wollten verstehen auf die Pashtas. The Rebbe is saying, kol ha-mitzvahs, gam ha-mitzvahs sheyesh alim tam. That means, so the first thing is, and that's the word Pashat, you say there's a lav in the Torah lei signiv. Where they would say a mitzvah. There's a mitzvah to give back if someone gave you a chavetz to guard for him, there's a mitzvah to give it back. Let's take the lav as easier. So if someone asks, so you can ask someone, what's the reason why the Eivisher said we shouldn't steal? So what's the reason? Because it's heipach hayeshet to steal. It's his money, now let it take it from him. So Avdem HaChassidus, that's not where things begin. The Ratzna Ali that there shouldn't be Gneva, Heitzach is their phone because Gneva is a negative thing. Fakert, the Ratzna Signev, even before there was a concept of Gneva, before there was a concept that Gneva is a negative thing, before there was the Gdarim of Seichel, all of Bertzenia asked me of Ein Sof that Gneva should be against him. And there you can't say, why doesn't he want Gneva? Because it's Heipach HaYesh. There's no concept of Yesha yet. We're talking about in the Eibusher himself, the way the Eibusher is before there's the concept of Seder Shlachos. All of Bertzenia atzmi that there should be a mitzvah l'shavas habikad. So mitzvah that darga, there's no, you can't say what's the purpose in order for the person to azikach all of Bertzenia ain't stuff. Ain't stuff is higher than seichel. Like you can say when they get to Ras and Labayis. So why does the etzem whenever should have a mishichat habayis? Because it's in order for it shouldn't rain when he sleeps. The nefesh is there's no matzis of rain there. It's in ruchli. So the kesher is a kesher nafshi tabayis. Nothing to do with the fact that. So that's when you get to mitzvahs. Chassidus zot, you see, ask a regular person from Anashtam mitzvah lisigna because Gneva is a negative thing. Adem zach all about tzeni ha'atzmi of Ein Sof, which is higher apayim shana kod material and before there's a concept of elements, before there's a concept that Gneva is a negative thing, and all about tzeni of Ein Sof that Gneva should be mushlo. So avadim mitzad that darge the Inyan of the lav of lisigna is not neveh mitzad the tam. Now there is the mitzvah of Hashavas Bikodan is not neveh mitzad the reason that we see in it. It's kach all of it saying after the so it doesn't negate all mitzvahs. But that's state HaChassidus. But the Rebbe is adding here that lepoil when the Ratzna only the way it was this galatas. Lepoil we're living in a world that there's ownership. There is gedarim of seder shlashlos, and there's something belongs to me, something belongs to him, and the Ratzna only was this gala went through the levush of seichel. Lepoil the Ratzna was a slavish and chacham, and the Ratzna the way it's ninshach to us idea Torah, it's a Ratzna sheyesh betam. The Ratzna only when you get chveis paraduma has not or chveis other things. The fact that when you touch certain kach v'kach a person becomes tummy, that wasn't a slavish and seichel. Mashiach the Ratzna of leis signei or the Ratzna l'hashav v'sapikatin that was a slavish and seichel. That went through the levushim seichel. So the shaila is now that the Ratzna wasn't a slavish and seichel, the Ratzna the way it goes through the levushim of seichel, is it more mitzumtzim or is it already mitzuyer? or it stays in the same shittus the way it was before it was slavish and seichel. What the Rebbe says here is before b'chassidus the gam is Shiurim tam ikram hu ratzon shemalim etam. Why? Ki ratzon gam kshu b'betam nishel hu b'mhusei b'pshitusa. I mean that's the never pashut on the if you say a person has a ratzon labayis. No one's going to say that once a person started finding reasons for the ratzon, so now the ratzon is not anymore a mashiach pshuta. It's geborn eis ratzon. Why should it become eis? The nefesh has a kesher pnimi tavais. That's going to stay. Even after the person finds time, we're not going to say that the ratzon, even now, the ratzon stayed the pshuta. Why should we say that the seichel should redefine the ratzon al-chatchila? But the Rebbe that the tzveit is that the shaila is la'achrei the ratzon is nimshach and seichel. What does seichel contain from the ratzon? So the ratzon is nimshach and seichel is already there. What's his urge to have bayis? Because it makes sense to have a bayis. In that darga, we're not talking about there's a darga of the ratzon the way it's mushash and etzem and nefesh. That's like higher than seichel v'tam. But the ratzon is later nimshach in seichel v'das. When the ratzon is nimshach in seichel v'das, what's the mohos of that ratzon? Is it a limited ratzon? That what's his urge to abayis? Because it makes sense for him. In the left, when you say when a person is experiencing a ratzon abayis after it went through the levushim of his me'ach belief, what type of ratzon is he experiencing? He's experiencing a ratzon pash the betzman nefesh, or he's experiencing a ratzon. Why does he need a abayis? Because he needs to have a place to put his stuff down, or he needs to have a place to he needs to have a normal. He has to have a roof on top of it. It's not. It's going to rain, or 8K. It's not a ratzon. It's not a ratzon atzmi on the darga where he's experiencing the ratzon, the way he goes through a seichel v'das. So them talk about the Rebbe and mitzvahs in Ishtazit. Even the way the ratzon is nimshach in tam, even the way it's nimshach in tam, the ratzon stays with pshitusa. You understand? This is not the way that we experience regularly the musik of ratzon which is slavish in tam. Usually when you say the ratzon is slavish in tam, there is the nevesh way the nevesh is mufshit from kelim, mufshit from seichel. The pshitas are nevesh, and there are certain retzes which begin in etzma nefesh. But we don't experience the retzes the way they are in the nefesh itself. We experience the Mashiach the way it goes through Kaplan. And the ratzon for Yisim Shechin Seichel is not b'pshitusay k'may shehu be'etzim. When a person is experiencing a ratzon labayis, so that ratzon labayis is a hergish atzmi. No, he needs a place to stay, or other reasons. And that's the measure of the urge. That's the take if a ratzon is k'fer chatam. The ratzon becomes mitzumtzum according to the tam. So you don't relate to your previous ratzon. That's why nefesh have a mashiach atzmis for a bias. That's not what you experience the poil. So the shaila is the fact that there's a ratzon ali in the way he is l'mayla from eilam is, and there the ratzon has nothing to do with tam. Good that there's a ratzon atzmi. But the shaila is the ratzon the way is nimshach lamata, which is nimshach through chachma and nimshach through seichel. So there, once the ratzon ali was nimshach in seichel, so now the ratzon or the fact that the Eibishter wants this mitzvah, and the way the ratzon is nimshach in seichel should be limited according to the gdarim of seichel the kedusha. That's according to seichel atayra. So gneva is a good azar. So or others, why is there a mitzvah lahashvas habikotin mitzad the ratzon the way it's nimshach in mishpatim, the way it's nimshach in seichel? So the ratzon is in order for the mafke to get back his mommy. But in this case, it doesn't make sense for the mafke to get back his mommy because the mafke does him. So you're going to say, but so certain things. I'm saying not every din is neveh mitzad the ratzon the way it is in pshita saying itself. There's the way the ratzon is nimshach to us. So the ratzon, the way we're experiencing the ratzon elin of the mitzvah of leisignev, is the way it came through the levush of seichel. So mitzad that darge, the ratzon is mitzumtzum according to how much seichel is mechayiv, the nechitas of the ratzon. Adam zot Rebbe Nishta said that's mavur. Is that even the way the ratzon is nimshach in tam, ikram hu means not ikram. The sharsham is the ma'alan tam. Ikram, the way they are in tam, ikram is ratzon ha'elin shel malim tam. So someone's going to ask you today, why farvas parmenish gambadin? Why is there Israel signet? Because gneva is hebech ratzon. Even when we're experiencing that, why are you not allowed to steal because it's hebech ratzon elin? The poil, it doesn't make today. It's also wrong to steal. That's a davar neisef. That's not doesn't define the ratzon elin of leisignev. Even the way the ratzon is nimshach in tam, there was going to be not verstehen the meaning, but even the way the ratzon is gam kshu babetam, so the ratzon stays k'may shehu b'pshitusa, the way he is l'maylo and atam. I heard the meaning. I'll be mazbid this in the middle, but just first the hemshech. Shalachem. Gam mitzvahs mishpat mitzarach lekaimim mitatziv abed milachule teir. These mitzvahs were in the slavish in tam, and we're getting these mitzvahs. They're nimshach to us through seichel. Teir calls them mishpat. It's not stam that we're making up time. there's Chachme, there's in Seder Shashas is Chachme. And this Ratzin was Neslavish in Chachme. And we're Mekabel this mitzvah la'achdei slapshusti b'Chachme. So why does Chassidus say that this mitzvah should be Mekayim, v'lazeh tebi shigavot? Why shouldn't you steal? V'lazeh tebi shigavot. Why? It's also Mekayim saying because it's heipech haseichel, heipech seichel atayim to steal. Why do you have to Mekayim the Ratzin Ali? Avada the Ratzin originates, but Lepel when the Ratzin is nimshach to us, it's nimshach through the Levush of Chachme. So what's wrong with the Mekayim the mitzvah? Because it's heipech haseichel and it's heipech tzedek v'yesh al pitayra to steal. So Chassidus steht nicht das, because even la'achir the Ratzin is nimshach in seichel, it's b'mhusa, it stayed exactly the same Ratzin. Not because it doesn't make sense, because it makes sense to steal and not to steal, or because it makes sense to get back to Bikodim. So commandments is the chukim. I say what's the mashmas of the time that I was going to add here, but just one word. It's negate to touch us up a little bit, just to have this clear. I'm saying in a regular case, you say, why is it that regularly you say when a ratzin is nifshach in tam, so the ratzin is misamsum if you erech hatam. You see the regular case. I was saying the marshal of a person that has a ratzin lebayis. The question is, regularly you say there's the ratzin the way it is the meshicha pshut of that nefesh, and then the person has also lower keiches, seichel, there's midas, and when the ratzin is gal to the person, the ratzin is misamsum, and it's just lavish and seichel. It comes to perech seichel. L'maydi, you're saying something else. The reason why the ratzin ha'elim is also slavish in tam, it's a different word. We're saying the Eivish himself is ain't safe. And you can't define it. That's what I was saying in the whole Kuntres. The Eivish himself you can't define. It's a mitzvah ain't safe. If Oliver Tzayne of Atmi of ain't safe, that Gneva should be mushlo. That Gneva should be against him. The Gneva should be off. Heipech him. So mitzad ain't safe, Gneva is mushlo. If mitzad ain't safe, Gneva is mushlo, is it shaykh to say that mitzad ain't safe, Gneva is mushlo, but mitzad seichel, Gneva is not mushlo. Ein Sof is unlimited, you can't define Ein Sof. If mitzad Ein Sof this in is good, or this in is wanted, this in is linked with Ein Sof, or mitzad Ein Sof this in is mushlo, so it's going to be mushlo, but automatically it's not automatically, but because it's mushlo, but if an Ein Sofi, it's going to be mushlo mitzad all dargis. Obviously, Seichel is also going to be mushlo. The fact that there's a tam is not a tzimtzum. The ratzin, the way it is Ein Sof, is beyond any definition. So when the fact that it's loy signev mitzad Ein Sof, it's going to be loy signev mitzad else. You can't say signev is only bad mitzad ruchnis. Mitzad gashmi it's not. If the shlila of gneva was mitzad Inyona which has a gvul, so you say mitzad the darg of seichel gneva is mushlo. You see, certain things logically we can't agree with such a thing, but emotionally you could connect it. That's if the shlila is mitzad a certain truma mukbelis, so it's mushlo mitzad seichel. Mitzad midas is not mushlo. But if something's mushlo mitzad Ein Sof. Ain't Sof Oliver Tzeni loy signev. Something is mushlo because the Eibishter himself is vilisish. So the Eibishter himself is not defined. So if it's mushlo mitzad him, then Mela it's going to be mushlo on all levels.
So why aren't chokim mushlo on?
So Oliver Tzeni has certain things. The fact that the Eibishter is not limited that his Ain't Sof has to be expressed, that on every level it's mushlo. He's not limited in that either. But certain things Oliver Tzeni that this aspect of Ein Sof should be expressed in the fact that even al Peseichel it's wrong. What I'm saying is by a person, you have a Ratzin HaMeluvish B'tam is nachavart. It's a tzimtzum type. There is the Nevesh itself is beyond Seichel B'tam and is beyond Midas. And there is the Meshichas HaOdam Mitzad Nafshe, that is Nevesh is Nimshach to this thing. And then there's the way it's missed that Seichel also finds reasons for the Ratzin. The Shinachavart. So in that level, it's Mesamsim L'Ferech HaSeichel. And there's beauty, a person is not himself. So it's say mitzad his nefesh bias is a good thing. There's a link. You see, because his nefesh is connected to a bias on all levels, his nefesh is a link to a bias. The pshitas is connected to a bias. Who said serious to be connected to a bias? Not necessarily. That's not covered. That also seichel could find a reason for a bias. Here you're saying if the Eivisha connected himself with this, so Elokus on every level is going to be connected, and the Eivisha ain't safe. So any tzir is going to be. Any tzir to be able to cut its but mele, this mitzvah is going to be a chiyuvi mitzad that tzir, because the Eibishter ain't safe. So the mohos, why is gneva today a davar amuf for? Not because the ratzin was a slavish and tam. See, the ratzin originally the ratzin is the way the Eibishter is beyond seichel, the ain't safe, and it was also mislavish that al seichel is eichet mufli. So not It's the same Ratzon which is Ein Sof. Because the Ratzon is Ein Sof, and he has no Agbola, so B'meil is Zapi Seichel Eichazeh. So Mitzad the Tzir of Seichel is also Mushlo. Why? Because this Ratzon is Ein Sof, B'meil, and according to every Tzir, it's going to be Mushlo. You heard the meaning. So Mela the Rebbe says, so you have to be kind of the mitzvah the way it is in Tzad Amitis Inyan. Amitis Inyan is never, it's never, on any level, it's never true to say that why is Gneva Dovra Mushlo because Api Seichel that's wrong. The Mahus of Seichel Guf is the Ratzon. That's the most. So you say, why is it wrong? Because it's Be'etzim wrong. B'meil on all levels it's wrong. The Mahus of the Seichel is the Ratzon. As the Rebbe is saying. So B'meil, the Rebbe adds in the B'meil the Kiyas Mim said Kabbalah Sel. It's at Chukim. This is an important point. This at Gosh. We'll see in the get to the whole beer. Saying this at Gosh, you don't necessarily have in the Mekayres. The Rebbe brings some Mekayres and Chassidus, but the Rebbe touches the race as a very sharp place. Okay, was steht da? So Shloime, gam is mishpat, Shloime und sagt sie bei der Kabbalah sagt, man ist der Chuk. Oh, elo shamitzvah sheshalim tam. Ich will pashto dugma, stam we have khana l'chiluk. Is the moment when someone has a ras in the bayis. Whatever there's different you know saying in pashas the when a person's designing his bayis is not being married to Shalot and Pashut. He's designing his bayis according to his keches agluim, what suits him to have the bayis. Means lepoil, it's you're relating to the Ratz in the way it comes through the levush of Seichel Amidus. Then there's the Sheresh and that's it. Here we're saying it's the same in Saf, Umedum. Those Umedar is big. The Melech of Hazeh the Ebesh Gehasen. So then the fact that it's Mufrech, if the Ebesh Gehasen says the Mitzvah says it. If the Ebesh himself just ain't Saf, he himself is Shel, so if the Ebesh says so, everywhere is going to be that way. Elo shamitzvah sheshalim time. So why tak is mitzvah sheshalim time? The kivat sheratzna elgin shabem mislabash gam betam. Shlochein ikrahim betayda b'shem mishpatim. Tzarich liyis kiyumam gam mitzad hatam. It's not chabad. Mitzad hatam sichli shabem. This is going to be pratim, but let's einzach. In the artist come a pratim is in this prat. Oh, let's first finish the gufein. Now, the kivat shekala mitzvahs Inyona. Ratzna Kodesh Baruch Hu as Kach Oliver Tzeinei. So you have to remember the Eibishter himself. Show who is Baruch Hu Tzeinei Echad. With the Eibishter, before there's any concept, say what is a Lakus about? So what is Inyona of Ratzna? He wants Tzedek V'Yesher. Tzedek V'Yesher is a concept of Nivrai. Any concept, the Eibishter himself is beyond any concept. See, it's a Lakus about in the lower level. As the Rebbe says here, Harikshem Shebayis Baruch Ein Shaykh Lemer Shehu B'Shvil Is Etachas Acheres. It's a shaykh to say that in Bas Bashtei Lakus, the Eibishter is the ultimate perfection. That's calling the dakos that the Eibishter is here, L'Tachlas Acheres. There's him. He's not about an inyan. In Seder Shash used to say, there's great musag and great virtues. Chachma is a virtue. Chesed, and the Eibishter contains these great virtues. You can say that a Lakus is about the most perfect being. You know what I'm saying? Who are the Tzeinei Echad? Kshem Shebeis V'Rein Shach Lemer Shu B'Shvil Is Etachas Acheres. The Eibishter is for it for something. Kein Gam Mitzvaysav, is the Zach. He's the Inyan. Kein Gam Mitzvaysav, Ein B'Shvil Is Etachas Acheres, in Kol Tachlisam Hu Heimatz. So what's the Inyan of a Yid Zolegin Tfil? Shmi Mishavet is never Shomer. That this is what the Eibishter wants, and you're being kind of there's no other Inyan outside of the Eibishter's Ratzon being fulfilled. Not Kein Inyan Ish. So what's the Inyan that there's Shibud Halev HaMe'er to the Eibishter. That's already an Inyan. And the mitzvah was given in order to accomplish this Inyan of a Nivra being Meshavet himself to the Eibishter. That's saying that the Ratzna Alim, the Eibishter is there. There's Bittul is a big Inyan. And Nivra Shivat to Lakus Zagresa Inyan. And the mitzvahs were given to accomplish this Inyan of being Vatla Nivra to Lakus. That's in Dargashim to some of the Shashas, the Shaykh will say that the Lakus is about a Nivra being bottled in. But we're dealing with Ein Sof. Ein Sof is Ein Sof. There's Heker from Ali Inyona. It's the Eralim. And Al Derech Zeh, the mitzvahs, the way they're Neveh mitzvah Ein Sof, Inyona the mitzvah is Azei Villa. It's not solely by giving us Inyan. There's no Inyan. This is what he wants. There's no Taich B'dav. So, Meile, when you get mitzvah shows up, because the Toras and mitzvah in the Rak B'Shol Tevis HaMafkid. Shiur Zerlei Maamar B'Shleim was Ela Shava Atzma Hi HaMatar V'Atak. Kim Ratzna, the Inyan itself. Huh? Why did I say it?
No. It's like, what is the Torah mitzvah then? He just says.
What I'm saying is, the mitzvah is not here to accomplish a certain inyan.
So
Usually, I'm saying the way the tefis of mitzvahs is, the mitzvahs are called the mitzvahs nitul l'tzar b'misabriyos. So we're looking for some great objective that the mitzvahs are here to do. So that's the doctor saying that the Eibishter is here to serve an objective. You have a concept of what the purpose we're getting to. What's the ultimate purpose? To be a great person, to be a kind person. And mitzvahs are here to bring you to this great mile. The Eibishter, he's not here for anything. Everything is here for him. He's beyond, say, a great virtue. He is the virtue. He's the Indian.
So what's the Talmud mitzvah then?
Kach Oliver saying his ratzon. For MLA, what's the taflis? That his ratzon was a small.
Why didn't he say that?
Huh?
So why didn't it say that?
That's what it says.
So I should have asked me if you know what's the Talmud.
What does it mean before? King of Israel, in Mishal is a taflis acheres ki im kol tachlisam hu heim atzum. What's heim atzum? That ritzayne shekach ratzon, and his ratzon is done.
So the fact that you have, the fact that you have people that were time.
See why the Eibishter had no. This is what he wants. The only reality that exists is the Eibishter and his Kabbalah. That's it. There's no. You're saying you're asking what are we gaining by fulfilling his Kabbalah? You're looking for a concept. But that's called the doctor saying the Eibishter is here for something else. There's a lofty concept of accomplishing something grand, and we're mitzvahs. We're doing his will to get to this grand thing. Saying what's grand about it? He's the thing. He's the tachlis.
Okay, it's fine to say there's another thing about the age of the Talmud.
But that's what you're asking. You were saying before what's the purpose of doing this? Why did the Eibishter want? He's beyond the concept of why. He's the beginning.
So you have to turn the mitzvah itself into a Talmud.
Not his ratz. As I think about, there's nothing besides for the fact that you're doing a mitzvah that is the Eibishter's ratz and being the smaller. It doesn't mean now we're being mekadosh the mitzvah. It's his ratz. Kach Oliver saying. No other objective beyond for the fact that Kach Oliver says. If the Rebbe brings that there's a mitzvah in Torah, Hashavas Atikad. Let's say there's a mitzvah Heishav is Exela Shagaza. What do you understand by the way? Heishav is Exela in order for the nigzal to get back his money. It's not enough for the nigzal to get back his money. There's a mitzvah doing this kiyum ratzon the nekudas you see the Mehusa Inyan is Mekayim mitzvah Hashem v'Heishav is Exela Shagaza. The mitzvah v'Heishav. In our world, you're saying what's the objective that the nigzal should have his money back? The mitzvah is here for a person to have his money back. Or Isaiah Zayin Ratzon. Zayin Ratzon is that the nigzal should have his money, but it's about his Ratzon being the small. It's not about the Inyan happening. In a lower, very low darga, if you're saying that the purpose of a mitzvah is a yener zal haven zayin geld, you're saying that the mitzvah is here for a cause outside of it. And then you can say much more badakos. A person's looking, what's the purpose of learning? To get to a certain godless. To get to a certain stage. There's no bittul, there's nothing. There's kiyum ratzon. That's what there is. There's the Eibishter on what he wants. And that's the ultimate, that's everything. There's nothing besides that. Was verdient man mit einer mitzvah? What do you have to verdient? We did what he wants. What does he mean? גם כשהמפקד חייב למומן ואין אם עשו להצלחי ואין מוקם למה שעקבס בדרך כי מחוי במצווה השם. The herd meaning, why is it say he's the eater is looking? No, if the elam is not hot, you can leave it.
So why did he choose that for these ones?
It's not. Why is only able to ask? You see, if we have a certain image of what we're looking for, say if there is whatever he decided, that's what it is. To begin with, the only real reality is him and what he wants. What do you mean? Why did he choose?
He proposed others and he didn't choose. I'm saying.
Huh?
He proposed others and
I understand, but you're asking why is a question. You say, why did this person want an empty room? He should have won another type of room. What do you? This is his ratzon. I'm saying it's not why is a question. It should have been something different, or it doesn't make sense to me this way. Here, there's no concept of sense. There's no concept of what are we looking for. He's the mitzvahs. Eres bezah. Emma zayin ratzon. Now the Rebbe is saying this hergish, a yid, this is a very important point. This point, the Rebbe is saying that a yid should be margish in doing a mitzvah. That the only factor is that Eibush is ratzon. The Eibishter is beyond any concept, any inyan, any greatness, any virtue. Bittul, chveis to get the ruchnius. There's no concept. There's the Eibishter and what he wants. What's the value in doing something that it carries out his kavanah, his ratzon? So this hergish that when you're doing a mitzvah, the yichus is doing what the Eibishter wants and not looking for any ma'ila and neisef to that. The hergish nazar zach is dafka mitzat yichid. Says mitzat other dargis, the whole musig is a very stark word. The yid doing Avodas Hashem, learning, davening, epes zuchter psaim. There must be some gadlus or some inyan that we're gonna get through being mekayim mitzvahs. Through sitting in the sukkah, we're going to become more the dveikos to the truth. We're looking for some type of virtue, some type of inyan. HaChassidus gives the hegesh not Eibishter. He's not about making people more dovakol emes. He's not about making people more honest. It's about what he wants. It's not about any concept of ma'ila that you're envisioning. That hergish that the yichus of a mitzvah is as Sudan Eibishter and das is Zayin Ratzon, and that's the ultimate purpose for everything, and that's the reality behind everything. That's the hergish that HaChassidus gives.
And any meaning that there isn't a mitzvah is just like a mitzvah that has a tam, that it's like the Eibishter wants you to think about the tam.
We'll see the artist will see when they get to the tam. What's the musik of tam? I'm just saying it's not mamish the same thing, but the concept of the people have a hard time. The whole concept of the they do put a yid once, you do it's a malik tefillin with them. If the yichus of a mitzvah is that if the whole mile of tefillin is that through that, some people the mile is you become a from a yid. So living a from a lifestyle is a positive thing. And that's the ultimate goal of life, to live a from a lifestyle, whatever they think. The guy's doing one mitzvah is, if it ends up living a from a lifestyle, very good. But doing the mitzvah itself has no value. Mitzvahs are for a certain objective. The objective is to in general be a from to be a bentayah or whatever. This one thing has no value at all. What's a mitzvah is ratzon aliyah. There's nothing greater than it being a kind of mitzvah. But demonstrate the fact that he did a mitzvah was mekayim ratzon aliyah this day. Tomorrow is not going to come from. Kiyim ratzon aliyah. That's the greatest azar. This is the greatest thing. The Oliver saying and his ratzon was a small. That's the greatest azar. He's not going to become a from a yid. Who said? Who made the virtue? The virtue from a yid is that's what the Eibishter wants. There's no virtue outside of the fact that the Eibishter's kavanah is the sky. If you look at it, that the whole yichus of a mitzvah is that does will the Eibishter, so there's enough community between one time putting on film to a whole life putting on film. The mahus is the same mahus, which is ain't safe, and there's not nimdat in the garden of makom uzman, and how much times you did it. I'm saying it's ratzon aliyah. They're saying this hergish is inside the yichidah. Because why? You never shruach neshama chaya. According to their tziyur. So gam tfisas, and this is every nekuda that Rebbe brings out, the whole, it's a very stark point, but the whole nekuda of the Kuntres is Rebbe is bringing out the nekuda of what HaChassidus is, but he's touching it in a language where it's not tfis in them. It says HaChassidus is yichida. Well, how do you put into words or into real life to use what yichida is? So the Rebbe teaches in every darga another knech of what yichid is. So the first thing that we speaks to the Nekuda of yichid is that mitzad yichid is not tfisas smokim to any mitzias besides the Eibishter. There's no yachas anything besides the Eibishter. And the second thing is that there's no that the lukus repshitis and mitzias bischachos. Here the Rebbe is saying this hakara that you're not looking for any additional objective in a lukus or in a mitzvah. Elokus is not the ultimate greatness. You're not looking for a certain musik. You're not looking what's the purpose of mitzvah. That's the ultimate way of living life. Or you're not zuchtas shvatam. Das ist der Rebbe Shigavot. Beyond the touch. That hergish you only have mitzad yichid. Das mitzad nejev shel shama chayakim and she's kashus maberek fiu mitzad Shiurim heim. So gam tfis it's a seichel, let's say, or any dargin. Tfisas and ratzna aliyah no kumei shom lubish b'tzir. Elokus is verbunden with their tzir. So the seichel is teifes elokus the way elokus is nitfas in seichel. Seichel is a certain mitzias, and it has its vision of what's the ultimate greatness. And it's teifes elokus according to the way seichel is teifes elokus. So that's not Eibishter, which is not about a taich. That Inyan you don't have in seichel. That the purpose of a mitzvah is the guf kiyum mitzvah. Every mitzvah mitzat seichel has to have we're accomplishing something. Elokus is a tayir azach. By doing what he wants, his presence is felt more. There's it's a very lofty objective that the Eibishter's presence should be felt. But a person's seichel, you have in your seichel that the Eibish's presence being this Gala is a valuable thing. And the mitzvah is here to accomplish that valuable thing. Mitzvah Yechid, the mitzvah is not here to accomplish anything. This is what he wants. Who said that? There's no value, whatever he wants. If he wants a value, is a value. But it's not, the mitzvahs are not here to serve to any concept, even to the most lofty concept. It's about, there's an Eibush which is beyond any definition, and the only real thing is him and his Ratz. Sehr starke Sache. Gan Tfisasim Ratzna Elin Kwishal Lush Mitzir. Verlaka Yechida She'ein Batzir, hat kein Zir nicht, and has no Mavukish, it has no, see Mavukish is instead of higher, they say Darg of Chaya. Sayyid is Nizvein, that the Eibush Shalei Be'erdach Te'elims. And he has it their hair in the flow of Alukus. But when he does a mitzvah, so he's looking that he wants to accomplish, he say someone, what's the purpose of a mitzvah? To be pailing himself bittul. You should realize that he doesn't exist. That's also a virtue. Yechid is zuchnish to sein bottle, as we were saying. Yechid has no mavukish, it's not looking to be bottle either. In never shochin Hashem is a mitzias, we really take Salakuz according to that tzir. Chai is nishke mitzias, but Inyona is to be bottle. So he's tavis Salakuz, Salakuz is tachos hareimus. The Salakuz is hazach, the Gabi, everything is bottle. And then when he does a mitzvah, so the ultimate bittul is being expressed. It's not about bittul being expressed. The Eibusher wants, he's doing it. There's no factor besides for the mitzvah being carried out. Even the fact that I'm being bottled now or anything like that, that there's no value outside of the Eibusher's Ratzon being Nisal. Not his bittul either. So not that it's in a state of bittul. The way it is mufshet from any shaykhs tzir. And in that level, Tachlisei is the Eibishter himself, that Ole Bertzeni, that he wants.
So when it says like the Torah lost to Shalom, all these.
Oh, we'll see the hardest now when we get to time. But this point is a very important point. This word. It's a very. Remember this always, but that Fabringen, that someone remembers from before Tashin Yud, that the Rebbe Fabringen, the B'Shas Avarchim, said a mashal that a melech came to Medina and needed a place to stay. So people came to be matzia, their castles, their royal rooms, to give the melech he could stay in there. Then a simple person came and he said that he doesn't have any fancy palaces or any fancy things, but he has a place where he stays. He's ready to give it to the king. The king found a place to schlafen. He said that the Kaisar said, this is Rebbe said in the Mashal, I don't know, but this is what the Yid remembered, that the Kaisar said, this is from Zalman Posner said this, that the Kaisar said that he doesn't need to have any choshev rooms, big rooms, nice rooms. Mir ist genug ein kleine Zimmer. Aber es soll sein in ganzen Meiner. It shouldn't be nirgash that someone gave his room, so I devoted himself to the king. He was my father so much. It's not about a person's bittul. So that the Eibush on his Ratzon, it's not about your bittul either. He said all other dargas, never shochin Hashem achaya, Elokus is connected somehow to a certain state of mitzias. In lower dargas, the ma'ila is fashtain, whoever has the greatest havana in Elokus. In hechera dargas, the ma'ila is ver is mer bottle Elokus. It's not about the Eibishter. It's about being bottled to the Eibishter. Understanding, there's a certain, concept of what Yiddishkeit is getting to. The highest level of Abbas Hashem. That's the hechster darg. And the mitzvah is to get to the highest level of Abbas Hashem. Or to get the highest darg of Havana Salukus. The highest darg of Bittul. It's not about getting it. It's not about you, B'chlal. It's about the Eibishter. And this is the Zach. Good, Lawrence, they're not part of artists when they get to the... Okay, so I don't know the numbers that you have here. What's the number? Aval Iker Kiyom. You see the...
106.
Yeah. So the Rebbe says here, I don't know exactly how this works in Tzis, but Iker, even the way the mitzvahs are nimshach. Even we're living in a world that lays signa, that Gneva is davar amufrech hapiseh. So the Rebbe is saying here, why is Gneva mushal? Or what's the essence of the... It's a wrong thing to say, why Gneva mushal? What's the essence of the fact that Gneva is a negative thing, what's the essence of this reality? Is there two realities? Is there Ratzon El in the way is higher than Mitzias? And then there's the Ratzon El in the way is Slavish and Seichel. And the Ratzon is Slavish and Seichel, Gneva is Mufrach HaPiseichel. Or there's only one Akudah, there's that the Eibishter will nicht Gneva. B'meile Echet HaPiseichel. So the Mahus, so the Rebbe says, Iker Kiyumim, even the Iker has to be mitzad Kabbalah Sil. Shekom is not snelly. We're going to see it. Just look at the next. We'll skip this bracket. Just we say this. Gam zaat v'shem mashamitzes the mishpatim tzrichim lekan gam etzam gam hu lefish kein kaza. Means we're never leaving the nekuda of ratzon. The Rebbe is saying even the fact that the mitzvahs and mishpatim, we have to also be mekayim them at the time. Means if a yid in zayin seichel gneva is not it's not the end of the world. Gneva is beseder. Say the Ibish's Gehasim, Tarnish Gambin, that's not going to be a Kavan al Yin. The Kavan al Yin is that a person's Seichel should also come to the conclusion that Seichel is Mufrach. But in that Gufa, why is his Seichel understanding that Gneva is Mufrach? Because Azay the Ibish Gavot. The Etzem, the true of a Yid is that the Etzem Sinish Negea but Seichel Zakt. Seichel Bachal is not a Madam. Seichel Bachal doesn't exist. There's an Ibish there. If the Eibishter wants, he's not limited that his Ratzin has to be dafka in a way of Shving Shel Seichel. If the Eibishter wants, he can be in Seichel too. And that's in a Yid's to Rebbe's Mitzvah, a Yid was halder by. So Be'etzim Seichel by him is not convey anything. Whether the fact that he understands the Gneva is wrong. Seichel B'chaz not a man. So versteht Razeh, versteht Anders. Seichel is B'chaz not a convey what the Mitzvah is. It's the only thing that exists is the Eibishter. And that's the only, Abi Seichel Azach is Mufrich, Seichel Chatchil is not a Mitzvah. But if the Eibishter himself, if the Ratzna Elin is that you should understand, so then it makes a difference to him. It makes a difference. Then the Seichel is mafrich. Means Seichel is not a man Omer, because the Eibishter himself is beyond Seichel. But if the Eibishter is not limited, that his Inyona have to be dafka in a way of being Shel Seichel. So if Oliver Tzani that his lab should also be upcollected in Seichel, so if other Seichel could be a kiddy for this lab. But also with their example.
Why is it a separate Oliver saying that it should be in Seichel? If the ultimate reality is the Eibishter, so
but he doesn't need. But Seichel doesn't exist. Mitzad Atzmus, the whole concept of Seichel doesn't exist. There's no concept. There's only him. There's no because he's ain't saved, so it has to be on all levels. There's no levels. There's nothing has to be Mitzad Mitzad. If he wants, then there's no limits. Then it can be on every level. What I'm saying is, as soon as you say if something's so great, how could he not be everywhere? That's if there's an everywhere. And it's already established that the greatness of something is dependent on the fact that it's everywhere. So if it's great, how is it not everywhere? So there is nothing. There's only him. Nothing. The initial point is that there's nothing has any value besides for the Eibush himself and what he wants. See, and then you have to ask him. If he wants, he's not limited that he has to be in a way that nothing could relate to him, or that nothing matters to him. If he wants, Oliver said that this thing should matter to him. He wants that Seichel should also realize that it's wrong. Not because this thing is saying. Nothing intrinsically matters. But if he's not limited that things have to be in a way that nothing matters. So whatever he wants. If the Oliver said when it comes to Gneva, it's very important to the Eibishter that Al Seichel, a person should despise Gneva. As they think about it. See, but if the Eibishter is beyond Seichel, why is it so important that you should despise it? He's not limited that his Inyanim have to be dafke in a way of higher than Seichel. So Oliver saying that Seichel should be that the fact that this that the fact that this is despised should be despised on all levels. And certain mitzvahs he wanted that the fact that they should be despised, it should be nirgash begali because he decided, and not because your mitzvahs. David just doesn't need your mitzvahs, but he's not limited that his inyanim cannot be in a way that they penetrate your mitzvahs. So some things he wanted them to penetrate your mitzvahs, and some things he wanted you to realize that it's not about your mitzvahs or whatever. I'm saying already an objective. The Rebbe is saying not even reasons. The Rebbe is saying that's sharfer. Ze atzim Hashem mitzvahs mishpatim tzrichim l'kayim gam etzad hatam v'shekein gozar tzigzeir. That was not saying a beer. I'm already saying a beer. There's a certain mila that the Ratzin penetrate. That was not saying a beer. As they you say why are the mitzvahs not? Ert gavot that their mitzvahs shouldn't. What I'm saying is if the initial hanacha is that nothing exists, and the Eibush doesn't have to make. It has to make sense. He created the whole concept of making sense. So the Eibush has to make sense, and he created our seichel. So you say it doesn't make sense. The Eibush should want something, and he shouldn't care the way we understand. There's nothing that he's not bound by anything. But he's not bound. That means that he can't want. He wants. And there's anything about the way they're saying it here. Kach gozar. It's go that there's some verstehen and there's some nicht verstehen. That's anything about. But what's the premise of seichel? What I'm saying is, how did the Ratzin get a tam? Because the Ratzin was misamsim and came to a realm of tam. Or if the Ratzin is, if the Eibush, whatever the Eibush wants is. So he wanted it to be a tam. It's gevarna tam. So the premise of the tam is Ratzin, not seichel. And al there's naveda sa'adam. Gneva has to be a person has to be in a seichel has to be mafrach gneva. the Rebbe saying that a Yid l'poyal mamish lives this way, but the Rebbe saying that a Yid has to be an apitayra, has to be a zasut mensch, that his seichel despises neighbor. Why? But he doesn't care about his seichel, has to say. His seichel hamnar man Omar. But as they Rebbe should have that his personality should be a zasut mensch. It's very hard to a person should live this way. The fact that by us Gneva is a davar hamufrach, the seichel is created. That Gneva is davar hamufrach. But the Rebbe is saying is the Anachas Nevesh is what my seichel says is not a factor. What the Eibush says that's a factor. It's ich verstehe jetzt, ich verstehe nicht. That's the Chala Ma'ila of the Meir. But when it comes to these things, the factor up is seichel. It's mufrach, seichel anushi, or a person has to learn that seichel, that Gneva should be a davar mufrach. That should be kach gazar that it should be something up is seichel. It's mufrach. So the Shloime was, the Rebbe said, I remember seeing this inside, but that Shabbos is a mitzvah of Elik Shabbos to la'ange ba'achilo shtir, basar and dogim. So the Rebbe said a Yid that's margish at the darga b'lakus that's meir b'Shabbos. So he has no interest klal abitava to eat flesh. Shabbos is a chavis meina. You can have it's a meir shemavaya there, you know. But since it's a mitzvah in Torah to la'ange ba'achilo shtir, but mainly it gets a geschmack in gashmis and the rest. Because it's a mitzvah to enjoy the meat, we bother us now, we should enjoy it, but maybe he has an enjoyment. If someone that doesn't have any personal mitzvahs. His mitzvahs I'm saying, we're not holding by a target that you say, we're talking about a person, that the fact that his seichel comes to the conclusion that Gneva is nicht gut Sach is because the Rebbe hat das geheißen, aber dafür verstehen. A person, we're living in a world, Bible is saying there's ownership, and it's a negative thing to take away something from someone else. So you say something else, and avoid that person is the fact that he values the way he sees things, but that's he doesn't value it at all. Only when the Abisher said that you have to that you should understand it this way. Because Kach Goza, that here your seichel has a piece of smoke. But the Rebbe is saying it in a higher darga is a Yid, the fact that Api Seichel Leik Tzachazeh, yeah, but that's already a higher. What do you mean L'Shabbos Yitzhar? You're saying when you get but be'etzem any mitzvah, where does it say when you get the Gneva?
No, I'm saying it's not part of that general.
No, I'm saying L'Shabbos Yitzhar, but the Rebbe is saying it here, the fact that, let's say, Yishuv Eilam. The fact that Yishuv Eilam is a value is because Kach Oler Bertzeni that it should be a value. It's not be'etzem a value. Kach Oler Bertzeni, that the Rebbe is saying Kach Gozar, that Gzeila should be something that's a Dover Amos Abisayil. But it's not be'etzem that way.
Isn't that the chiluk between Shel and Mitzvah? Like we six all
Huh?
like for a guy, it's the Shabbos Yitzhar. It's like a Matziyah.
A guy is the shaykhs to the soul.
Right.
A guy is the shaykhs to the mitzvah is the way they're already connected to Atzir. A guy that I'm saying, a guy is already the way Lakus is slavish in Atzir of the most perfect being, and the concept of Shabbos is to have a perfect world. There, it's not about rationality. A yid is shaykhs atzmos, and mitzvah atzmos, it's not about any virtue. It's about him. But it's interesting in the Pnim the Rebbe says. It's interesting stuff. The brackets before it says Lahoyer the Gamme Mishpatim Amru Lefnei V'Lei Lefnei Akum. It says Halacha the Matarnish games Halacha Shin is Batla Kvar. But Apidin is supposed to be done by a Beis Din Shel Yisrael. There's the Isra to go to Erchos. You're not allowed to go to court. And even if they're being done Apidin Yisrael, so the Rebbe is saying here, it's not only it's different din. If they say a Mitzvah Al Varay, they say whoever the one that has the Chazakah. Or the one that wants to change the status quo, he has the burden of proof. And it says in Halacha, it's a Zalba Svara. In Halacha, it's not a Svara. It's not because Seichel says Mishkol Avarai. It's Alzei Zak the Eibishter. The Eibishter had gewollt that this Ratzin should also come up Seichel Zaldeich Zayin. But the Valazei the Eibishter gewollt the part is up Seichel. The Mahus is not a Svara. The Mahus is Ratzin Aliyim, which Ratzin is not limited. The Meil is also up Seichel. But the Rebbe adds here in the Shalai Gildin already attached. In the Pnim, the Rebbe says, Gam Za'atzim Shemitzis Mishvatim Shechon Kaim Gam Etzad Atam Hainel Fishikin Gozra Kadosh Baruch Hu. Shor Rosen Mitzvah Seil Slavish Gam Betam. But the Rebbe says in the Shalai Gildin already a hezber. In the Pnim, in the Ar it says Kash Gozra. But then the Rebbe says, by Dei Zed Davkim Es Gali Yeser Inyona Yechid Mashadei Ki Mitzvahs Dechukim Shrak B'derech L'Osel. Ki Bezev Davkim Es Badj Ki Mitzvahs U'Mitzat Etzem Nafshi L'chein Paz Gam Asichel Ki Etzem Mitzvah B'Chol Aprot. So if by Yid, so there what the Rebbe says, no, I'm about to the Tzav anyway. If You say, if a person's whole Aveda is based on a Seichel, so then it's based on a Seichel, it's limited. If Be'etzim Yid has a Akara, that's Nishtag Kemitzis, she's done another Eibishter. And then the Yachad and Zeh, so the I said on one, so he throws one Tnua, because it's only the Eibishter, so it's not his Mitzvah is not Tevis Malkim. He's Mavatl's Mitzvah. His Mitzvah doesn't exist. Seichel doesn't exist. Or the other way, because there's only the Eibishter, so whatever he has is that way. What expresses more Ein Ed Mavatel? Or what expresses more as a donor of the Eibishter? See, because there's nothing there's no Mitzvah outside of him. The Mele, what Seichel says it doesn't exist. My Ratzin doesn't exist. Whatever the Eibishter wants, that exists. Whereas there's another Tnua. Since the only factor is the Eibishter, so whatever I have, his Inyan, permeates the person fully. His Seichel is behesed what the Eibishter wants. Since there's only him, so every aspect in his life is according to Ratzonality. The Rebbe says, "Vu brains chares mer," that a lukus is not defined more in the Tnua that it's slavish in time than the Tnua that it's shelo tam. Means this hakara that a lukus is higher than any mevukish, higher than any tzir. What Aved expresses more the fact that he's bottled to the Eibishter beyond the tzir, the fact that he disregards his mitzias, or the fact that his mitzias becomes the way the Eibishter wants, that his seichel becomes the way the Eibishter wants. So the Rebbe says the fact that the Ratzon Elyon that becomes his mitzias, that brings that in a deeper way than a kod of yichid. That's more by Riches. I'm saying the point is, if we're the beginning, if the base is seichel v'das or bittul, so it's based on mitzias. So or a person wants to know is the medid of a kirov to the Eibishter is having more havana b'asag in God's Hashem. The more his seichel gets to, or the more bittul. What the Rebbe is saying here, the pnimius hanefesh, the yichid is nirgash that there's no seichel and no bittul about the Eibishter will. But the question is, for the Eibishter will, then it has to be in a state that I can't relate it, or if the only thing that exists is the Eibishter, and that becomes the whole mitzias. My seichel understands like him. My midas. So there is the fact that the Eibishter is not limited. That even mitzias could be behesed. That brings out more the fact that the Eibishter is undefined. That he's not limited to be dafke in a way of higher than mitzias. I can do mitzias. So dafke and the fact in the key mitzvahs mishpatim brings out yichida, brings out that the Eibishter is beyond any tzir.
So he's aligning his seichel with the Eibishter wants.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, there's one way after a yid comes to the akara that there's only ratzonality. So now there's, in order to relate to this point of the Eibishter himself, which is beyond any bokish, it's by negating his mitzias, ignoring his mitzias, or es kann sich legen in sein seichel as a ratzonality. His midas could live with this hakara that there's only ratzonality. This truth that there's an Eibishter which has nothing to do with his mitzias, that gufa could permeate his mitzias. That his seichel should function that way and his midas should function that way. So since where is brought out more the heder hagbola v'lukus, that he doesn't negate mitzias, he doesn't negate prata. He's the primius of prata. He doesn't have to be in a form of being shelo mitzias. This emes of yichida doesn't have to be in a form of being shelo seichel mitzvahs. Seichel mitzvahs are not the foundation. What the Rebbe is being marich in the pnim is that the mitzvah is not based on the virtue that seichel sees. But with the shaila is, once a yid has this akara v'chidush b'nefesh that the nekuda is ratzonality and the kavanah of the Eibishter, does the kavanah demand that there's no person, only the Eibishter, or the fact that there's only the Eibishter that could permeate and that could become the person's mitzias? So because the Eibishter has no limits, the Eibishter is the etzem, which the etzem has no definition. So the etzem, which is the emes of alakus, that could permeate the mitzias adam. The Eibishter is not machayev that the person should cease to exist, and only that's the way that his ratzon can be nerigash. So the only way to mekayim a mitzvah, if you don't mix in yourself, that's what the Rebbe is saying all the time. The only way to mekayim a mitzvah is darshazayim. If it's a herzach nishnai mitzvahs, the Rebbe says no. The shleimus advarim is that in seichel vert der hert as the ratzonality, and your midas, your margish, and your lev kameshu b'mitziyusay, that the only truth is the Eibishter himself. That this emes that there's only a lukus beyond any mevukish, that goof is not sheilu your keches. Your keches alone der hert in that tzir. And that's what brings out the emes. That's the premise of a mishpatim. Leisignev is as evil the Eibishter leisignev. But since the Eibishter wants leisignev, the Eibishter is not limited. That his head, his ratzon has to be meir dafke mitzad the tnu of bittul aseh. His ratzon could be meir in seichel too and in this too.
Is seichel the reason or the rationality?
So it's more than that. The fact I'm saying is there was not being mitzvah. What's the word that there is a reason for lisignev? What's the pshat that the chisaron of gneva, a pesechos is also a negative thing. But primus is because since the Eibishter's the Ratzon Elyon is not limited, so even on the realm of seichel it's going to be mufrach. Because the Eibishter doesn't have to be in a way of defying mitzias. He's not limited in any form. He could come in mitzias too. And there's an avodah also.
This is why he cares to understand the reason.
This is the fact, the notion that Ratzon Elyon is a slavish in tam. That expresses the Ratzon, the way it's higher than tam, doesn't bring out the ultimate pshitus of the Ratzon. Dafke, and the fact that the Ratzon comes into tam, that brings out the ultimate pshitus of the Ratzon. That he's not defined that Dafke be Meir in a way of being Shelo mitzias, being Shelo Ratzon. His truth is also present within details, within seichel, within midas.
And the person who's understanding this, understanding the reason, and he cares to understand the reason, because that's what they
No,
wants.
you're saying it's not only caring to understand the reason. So the Ratzon will be Meir, even in seichel havana, the pshitus of Ratzon will be Meir. It's not just you're being mitzayed at seer of someone. I understand the Gneva is wrong, and then separately I have Kabbalah Sale. The Rebbe Retter is done. He's saying the fact that the Kabbalah Sale, the Rebbe is speaking a different meaning. The fact that this bittul to Ratzon Elyon permeates the seichel. Because he's so ibergaven to the Eibishter, therefore his ibergaven to the Eibishter also demands of him that every aspect of his life should be in sync with the Eibishter. So titzav is bittul. So the fact that your bittul leads, that your whole mitzias becomes behesem of holocaust, that brings out a depth in the bittul. That verstehen die meaning. That's out there. I'm saying.
Sometimes we say that the way is covering over the action.
That's in the beginning. But I'm saying, I would just point that's to come out clear. I'm saying is if what the Rebbe is saying is if it's based on Giluim, if your starting point is that seichel, why am I? If you're saying that the reason my gneva is a bad thing, if you're being machshav seichel tegish, seichel only the Eibush is the only thing. But from his point of view, he's not limited that he has to be dafka in a way of being shaylo seichel. If he could want that his truth should be also expressed through seichel too.
Right.
So once you come to the recognition that there is Ratzon Elyon, which is higher than Bittul and higher than Mitzias, this notion could also be present and be felt within Seichel and Midas also. And that verstehen the meaning. But this is the Rebbe Baruch, this is Parshas Chukas, the Rebbe speaks this Nikud also. But the Rebbe says the Kaman Sifit Zayin, this Nikud is also going to be. We're going to start next week. We'll start next week. We'll start Tuesday. Sutta Zov, yeah. The Zov is there also very stark. But we'll try to. We'll try to keep it. We'll keep it in Gdal.